A very good evening to all the MBA aspirants. This is Sheetal and you are watching Hitbullseye. So I hope all of you are preparing well. Your preparations are going really well for your MBA entrances. All of the exams are coming really soon, especially the CAT exam, the big fish which everyone wants to catch, right? So today in this live, we will be discussing a very important topic, a very important yet a very neglected one, that is time management. When you are sitting in the exam, no matter how much you have prepared, if you are not managing your time, not looking at the watch, how many questions do I need to attempt in, what time slot, it will be all waste. So today we will see some of the top MBA entrances and see how many questions of verbal ability and reading comprehension, or let's say verbal section, come in the exam, and how can you manage your time accordingly. So without any further ado, let's begin with today's live. Now, first of all, what are the skills that are needed for any competitive exam? Not just MBA entrance exams, for any exam. What do we need? What are those things? The two deciding factors are speed and accuracy. We can say the two legs of MBA entrance exams are speed and accuracy, because these are some of the most highly competitive exams. So obviously there are a lot of number of questions, and then time limit is restricted. So not just the speed, accuracy is something you have to achieve by the end of the day, right? So what happens is, when students usually speed up a lot, they try to finish the exam, they are under that constraint of time limit, they do speed up, but then they miss out in the accuracy, because if you are speeding at a very fast, you are doing a very fast reading of the RCs or of the para-jumbles, somewhere you neglect some important points, some important facts given in the RC, and eventually your answer turns out to be wrong, right? So there should be a fine balance between the two, the right balance between the two. Not just the speed, but the accuracy should also be maintained. So first thing that I would like to suggest you is, when you are sitting in the exam, please be calm, compose yourself. Whenever you're starting reading an RC, those initial 1 or 2 minutes are very crucial. So just be a little more careful while starting the RC. Once you've gathered what the RC is talking about, then you can speed up, obviously. So these are small tips and tricks which we will discuss in this live, and how you can manage time. You can apply this and see it yourself if it works for you or not. So why speed? Why are we saying that speed and accuracy are the two legs of MBA entrance exams, or the two deciding factors? Because speed helps in number of attempts. The more easily you are able to attempt the questions, let's say in the one go, you are not going back to the RC, reading it again and again to answer those 4 questions. It is very important that you comprehend it within time constraint, within the paucity of time. And it is directly proportional to the level of comfort and confidence. So if you know you've acquired that speed of reading the RCs or para-jumble questions, you obviously feel comfortable with the paper, and the more comfortable you are, the more speedily you will be able to attempt the question. So they are directly proportional to each other. So it's very important that you are calm while you're attempting the questions. Don't go with this burden of speed, because otherwise your 7, 8 months, 9 months, 1 year preparation, it's gonna go in dust, right? So speed is affected by, the first thing is level of exam. So in MBA entrance exam, CAT is believed to be the most highly competitive one, the most difficult one. Why? Because relatively questions are difficult in CAT exam. No one can deny the fact, right? But then there are exams like NMAT, where number of question is more than the given time or number of minutes. But then there is no negative marking in NMAT. There is negative marking in CAT, as well as the language is difficult. It is difficult to comprehend the language. Questions are more of critical orientation. They are not the easy, straightforward, direct or factual questions. Then level of vocabulary. The more words you know of a language, of a subject area, the more you'll be comfortable or you'll be able to comprehend the language of the RC. Now, vocabulary can be of two types, the general one and the jargon. Jargon is area-specific vocabulary. Let's say a student of non-medical who's otherwise good with reading, he's been keen reader, but then he's not interested in philosophy. He's not read anything about philosophy or any subject for that matter. It can be psychology, sociology, history, commerce, some scientific finding. If the person has not been well versed with the right vocabulary or the terminology of that language, his or her jargon of that subject is going to affect his performance in the exam, right? So it's very important that you have accumulated enough vocabulary by now. It is high time now. There is hardly 1.5 months left for the CAT exam. Now this is not the time I would ask you to go for learning new words. Yes, you can keep it at the same pace as you have been doing it, but then you have to be careful about the vocabulary, the static one, the general one, and the jargon, the specific vocabulary. Now, questions from vocabulary can also be different. It can be in form of synonyms and antonyms depending upon paper to paper, can be one word substitution also. Moving to the next point, which is reading practice. Believe me, this is the one thing which every MBA entrance exam aspirant, or let's say MBA aspirant, must do religiously, because almost entire paper is based on comprehension, be it your parajumbles, or we can say sentence rearrangement, be it your misfit, finding the misfit, RCs, or critical reasoning question. All these questions, they are oriented more towards reading. The more you are well read, the more you have had exposure to different subject areas, the more comfortable you will be with the language, because you will be able to anticipate what kind of genre is this RC from, what can author suggest. You can anticipate things, you can anticipate questions, you will be more prepared and less scared in the exam. So reading is something, I must say, if your exam is on 25th, till 24th, you should be reading something. If you are giving half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, depends upon you, your level of comfort with reading. But yes, reading is something you have to do daily if you want to ace VARC section of any exam. Whether the test has sectional limit or not, your speed depends upon this one factor also. Because if there is no time limit, you'll still be comfortable, you can manage things according to you, you can skip over or you can switch to different sections. If you are bored, or if you feel that VARC is difficult, you can go to DI or quant section. After doing it, you can come back to the verbal section, right? So it depends upon whether the exam has sectional limit or not. If we talk about CAT exam in particular, it has a time limit, 40 minutes for all the 3 sections. So there you cannot switch over to different sections, and you have to complete your verbal ability within 40 minutes. And strategy for strategy for sectional limit papers and no limit papers is different. When you have a sectional limit, you will devise one such way, or you will calculate your minutes according to those 40 minutes that have been allotted for the same section. But it can be different for those papers which do not have sectional limit. Ease with the language. How will you'll feel easy with the language? Again, by reading more, by more exposure, right? So it's very important that you have a way with the language, you understand the language, you comprehend it well, you're easy with the language. Presence of mind. Now this is again a very neglected point, but very important when it comes to decide your speed. So whatever your preparation must have been, no matter how many mocks you've attempted, if you are scared, you are fretted on the day of the exam, on the judgment day, and your presence of mind is affected, you are distracted or you are scared, it's gonna affect your performance. So it's better that you stay composed and just be focused on what you are reading, because every minute counts in such exams. Mapping the paper. Another important tip is mapping the paper, which will increase your speed. whenever you get the paper, what I believe is you should quickly go through or just see what kind of questions are there, right? Because this will help you to strategize which section you should go for first or which area questions you should go for first. This is going to be highly beneficial if you've already mapped the paper. Now, what affects the accuracy? We've talked at length about time management, about the speed. Let's talk about accuracy also. It is proportional to amount of time spent on reading. So the time you've given to reading, to your preparation, those months, those rigorous, that rigorous preparation you've done is going to affect your accuracy, because you will be more versed with the language. You'll be better able to judge if this particular question can be something that I can do correctly, right? Because if you've given enough marks, you've prepared enough, you know what are your weaknesses and strengths, and you'll do the paper accordingly, right? Awareness of question types. Now, different papers have different question types. Some papers do have questions based on grammar in the form of fill in the blanks or find the part which has an error, and the other papers don't have this section. So it is very important which all exam you are going to appear in, you should be well versed with the pattern. Every exam and every section demands different kind of strategy. You'll be able to manage time only if you know the pattern. Inclusion of variety and know the subject's variety. Now, inclusion of variety is you are doing all the kinds of question of verbal ability section, be it RCs, be it parajumbles, be it grammar questions, right? Be it one word substitution, vocabulary questions. You should be well versed with all the types of question. So another friendly suggestion for you guys is, if you are aiming just CAT and then you still feel there should be a second option going for other exams also, it's very important that don't just focus on reading comprehension, because reading comprehension is plays the major role in CAT exam. There will be other areas, especially grammar and vocabulary and critical reasoning, in other papers also. So be very careful about looking at them also, giving them time. Know the subject's variety. Now, what do I mean by subject variety is, this is in reference to the reading comprehension. Now, reading comprehension passages can be from n number of subject areas. So if you've been reading things, I would suggest you don't just read editorials or business magazines. Give some time to articles also. Can be on lifestyle, can be on cultural studies, it can be from philosophy, psychology, literature. Just add variety. Diversify your resources of reading. Read an article daily. You can start with shorter articles and eventually move on to the larger ones with important jargon, with efficient jargon, right? And this is eventually gonna increase your efficiency. Now, what types of question do come in verbal ability and reading comprehension? We've compiled some types of question here. I won't say each and every question come in every exam, but yes, in the topmost MBA entrances, almost all these topics are covered. Let's have a look at them. The first one is reading comprehension, which plays the major role in almost every MBA entrance, because language and command over language is something which is a prerequisite for an MBA aspirant, but obvious, right? Next is parajumbles or sentence rearrangement, where you get sentences put in a random order, and by this they check your logical reasoning, your understanding, how well are you able to connect the thoughts in the given sentences and frame a story or a coherent paragraph by it. Finding the misfit, quite similar to this one. You'll be given some sentences, 4 to 5 or maybe 6, and you'll have to find out that one sentence which just doesn't gel well with the other sentences. Para completion. You see, all these top 6 topics, I would say, are almost included in the reading comprehension only, right? So now para completion. Para completion is again how well are you able to comprehend, or how well are you connecting with the author's thought. Are you co-constructing the meaning of the passage? Are you able to guess that last line of the passage? So what kind of questions can come from para completion? It can either be the last line, it can either be the continuation of the second line, or else it can be the conclusion of the paragraph. And trust me, you'll easily be able to guess it, but only if you have practiced enough. So again, coming back to the point, it's very important that you take mocks of almost all the exams that you want to go for. This will give you an exposure and an idea about what kind of questions can come. Now, para summary. There is a difference between para completion and summary. In completion, you just have to guess the last line. It will be in continuation of the thought process that has been reflected in the passage. But para summary is something for which you'll have to channelize your thoughts accordingly. You'll have to find the gist of whole passage. The one line, the one option that justifies the whole passage, not just the beginning of the passage or the ending of the passage, but the whole passage. Essay writing. Now, another important topic. For essay writing also, you must have had exposure to different areas. You never know what kind of topic will they give you for essay writing. So again, it's important that you read more and diversify your sources. Fill in the blanks question. Fill in the blanks question can be based on two things. The first thing is your knowledge of grammar, your holdover grammar, and second is your vocabulary. So either it can be a word, a missing word which you'll have to fit. It can be based on vocabulary, obviously. Looking at the context, it depends upon how well will you be able to judge which word fits here according to the context. And the other thing is your knowledge of grammar, your knowledge of basic parts of speech. Sentence selection, again grammar based questions. So you will be given 4 to 5 options in these type of question, and you will have to select one option which is grammatically correct. The rest will have some flaw, but that one sentence will be grammatically correct, and you'll have to select that one. So this is what there is in sentence selection. Now, critical reasoning and verbal reasoning, two very important and a little bit tricky topics. So critical reasoning and verbal reasoning, these questions mostly includes either statements, and on the basis of statement there is some argumentation for it, or on the basis of those statements there is some conclusion which the author or the speaker is trying to convince us for. Similarly, in the critical reasoning, like in CAT exam, if there is no direct question from critical reasoning, it can come from the RCs also. When they ask you question on conclusion, on inference, or which of the following will add credence to the author's belief, all these question types are counted under critical reasoning. So again, you cannot escape these two portions. And the last one is antonym and synonym. Another one can be one word substitution also. So your vocabulary is something that comes under antonym and synonym. There can be questions from this area also. Right, so let's now see some topmost exams and try to understand how can we manage time. Let's try to do it together. CAT pattern and time management. So time duration in CAT exam is 120 minutes with 3 sections: verbal ability and reading comprehension, DILR, and your quant, that is mathematics, your basic maths. So each section has 40 minutes. So now you know you have 40 minutes for verbal ability and reading comprehension. So in CAT exam, there are 16 questions from RC alone, which means 70% of your CAT exam is reading comprehension. Now you have to decide how much time can you give to reading comprehension. See, whenever there are direct questions based on vocabulary or fill in the blanks, you will still be able to do it within seconds. But when there are questions based on RCs, obviously it will be you'll take twice or thrice as you take in the simple questions. Why? Because first you have to understand the RC, the context, you have to comprehend the RC, and then move on to the question. So one suggestion that I would like to give you here is, whenever you are doing an RC, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to do all the 4 options just because all the 4 questions, just because you've devoted time to reading the RC and understanding it, because this will be an emotional move and you might lose your marks in negative marking. So what can be the strategy for it? You have to quickly go through the initial lines of all the 4 RCs. Just see which subject or which genre are you familiar with and comfortable with. Go for those RCs only. And if you have time left with you at the end of the section, then you can visit back these particular the RCs that you left earlier, right? So SR and Misfit, there are 5 questions from this section, and these questions are known as TITA questions, which is type in, typeable answer, where there are no options and no negative marking. You just get a box where you have to write your answer. Attracting enough, right? But then this is a trap, trust me. Students generally devote a lot of time at this section, believing that because there is no negative marking, it's a good thing, I'm gonna get some points here. But what happens is, just by being attracted by these questions, they devote a lot of time reading this, because sentence rearrangement is not that easy. You might guess the initial line and the closing line, the introductory and the last line. You might guess a pair of 2 lines, but then you will not be sure if it's right or not. Even if you've missed 1 sentence, you've jumbled 2 sentences, you're gonna lose the marks and the time as well. Remember, we are talking about time management, not about which option is more attractive. So you have to be very careful. Even if you are doing this section, the time that you've decided for this should just be this, and no more minute or seconds should be given to it about that time. Then you have para summary. Para summary questions, there will be 3 questions from para summary with options. This has negative marking, this also has negative marking. It's just these 5 questions have no negative marking. But you see, whenever you have option, it becomes easy. You've guessed the answer, you've read the question, and then you can tally it from the option to make it sure if your guessing was right or not. This option is not available in TITA questions. So this is the reason mostly people fall for TITA questions, right? So now you have these 3 or 4 types of question. How will you devote your time accordingly? You have 40 minutes and how many questions? 24 questions. So what is generally believed is, for the RCs, you should just give 25 to 28 minutes, or can extend it to 30 if you are able to attempt the rest of the questions quickly, right? But then again, there is no rule that you have to attempt each and every RC. Just do 2 to 3 RCs. So there have been students or people, those who have attempted CAT exam, they often suggest that initially we just do 2 RCs and move on to the non-RC section. Only if we have time left, we visit this section back. Out of 24 questions, how many questions do you think you need to do? This is not your graduation exam, obviously. You have to be considerate about that. Your percentile is something that is going to be counted and not how many questions you've attempted. So what is the safe number of attempts? It is, if you have 24 questions and you are attempting somewhere around 17 or 18, and even if 16 questions are correct, you will be above 90 percentile if 16 are correct. So accuracy is something that matters most after your speed of attempting the exam. So nowhere about 25 or 28 minutes for the RCs. Let's say 8 to 9 minutes for each RC. And then whenever you are giving your marks, you'll have to decide if you are good with RCs or the non-RC section. I hope you've got some idea about how to manage time for the CAT exam. So 3 RCs in 24 minutes is a very safe choice. Why have I wrote 3 RCs? I told you there is no hard and fast rule to attempt all the 4 RCs, and trust me, it becomes very difficult to do it within the 28 minutes. So it's better you do 2 or 3 RCs if you have a good speed, have speed enough. So you can do 3 RCs in 24 minutes, which is 8 minutes for each RC. It's a safe choice. Let's now see XAT exam, the second most difficult exam after CAT exam, which leads you to the Xavier's College. So the time duration for this exam is 190 minutes. These additional 10 minutes were added for the section that was recently introduced, which is essay writing section. You have 190 minutes and there are 5 sections in XAT exam. Number of questions for verbal ability is 26 questions. And questions are from reading comprehensions. Again, there are 3 to 4 reading comprehensions. Grammar based question. Now you see, grammar was not there in CAT exam, but it is there in XAT exam, and it is usually seen that those who give CAT exam also give the other topmost exams. So this has grammar based fill in the blanks, sentence selection, again sentence selection and sentence rearrangement. So you can make it sentence rearrangement, right? So there are questions of sentence rearrangement, which is para-jumbles. You will be given sentences jumbled in a random way. You'll have to arrange them in an orderly way. And sentence selection. Select the sentence which is grammatically correct, right? Now let's see NMAT pattern. Nursi Monji, for this exam is for Nursi Monji, and there are 3 sections again. Number of questions in language skill is 35 questions and 28 minutes. You see that? So time duration is again, it is for the whole paper it is 120 minutes, but for the verbal section it is 28 minutes. Now think about it. How will you be able to do 35 questions in 28 minutes? Again, one more point, there is no negative marking in NMAT, but again it's a computer adaptive paper. So looking at your performance, assessing your performance, the computer might give you questions of little bit difficult level than the previous one if you are attempting the questions correctly. The other questions, the coming questions can be a little more difficult because this is a computer adaptive exam. So yes, how will we do this section? You again have like 4 to 5 RCs in this section. So the safer choice is doing 2 RCs. Usually people also go for non-RC section for this exam because there is just 28 minutes. So the safer choice is for the RCs, let's give 10 minutes, and for non-RC, the rest 18 minutes. That's it. This is the time you have to give to the RCs and non-RC. Even then you'll not be able to complete all the non-RC question. So what you can do is, if you are someone who do not have a flair with the reading comprehension section or RCs, go for non-RC questions first. Try to attempt as many as you can be 12 to 13, right? If you have a better speed and better command over the language, it can be even more. But 18 minutes for non-RC and then go to the RC section. Try to do 2 to 3 RC within this time frame, just 10 minutes. And how will you get to know if this timetable or if this time management thing works for you? You'll get to know it only by giving the maximum marks and assessing your performance, analyzing where are you lacking, where are you wasting time. So remember this, no matter how much you've prepared, if you are not managing time on the day of the exam, it's not going to be helpful. Moving on to the last exam for today, which is IIFT. So pattern of IIFT is there are 4 sections and number of questions in verbal section is 35 questions again. Time is 120 minutes, no sectional time limit. A very important point about IIFT exam. A very alluring exam. People do go for this exam. But then because there is no time limit, this is not a thing we should be happy about, because people often spend a lot of time on those sections which they are comfortable with, right? Just solving the question of that section and sacrificing the time limit, the time that should be given to some other section. So what you can do is, even if there is no time limit, you have to make a time limit for yourself. So you can give no more time than 30 to 35 minutes for the verbal section. So you need to keep a time, a watch with you or stop time with you, and you'll have to see that you have to wind up the verbal section within 30 to 35 minutes for IIFT. Again, topics or questions that come in IIFT are from these areas: critical reasoning, from grammar, from vocabulary, from sentence rearrangement, and RCs again, 16 questions from RCs, which means 4 RCs of 4 questions. I'm repeating what I've been telling you. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to do each and every RC. Just look at the RC first. Just try to understand what the subject area is, what the genre is. Will you be able to do it, or will it just be a time waste? So for all the 4 sections, divide time equally, and yes, if not equally, give enough marks to decide which section is the one that you can do quickly in comparison to the other sections, right? So that was all for today. I believe this must have helped you somewhat to understand or to try to manage your time in exam. So your exams are almost almost around the corner, all the exams. So all the very best for your exams, and if you want to have any help or understand any of these topics, I've covered almost all these topics in my lives. You can go to our channel and see all the videos, and I hope they are going to be highly beneficial for you. So all the very best, and God bless you, all of you. I hope you all come out of your exam with the flying colors. Thank you.